Yeah. No front number. Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of Unashamed Unafraid. We are here for a Live Unashamed episode. We are unashamed, unafraid, unashamed of sexual addiction recovery, and unafraid of coming unto Christ for healing. How's it going, guys?
Fan-freaking-tastic.
Joshua, how are you, man?
I'm not as good as Chris, but I'm okay. I just realized I don't have my mic on. Sorry, guys.
Oh, you're good.
It's a rookie.
Let's play a little game of Let's Shame Joshua.
All right.
I love having you on these episodes because you're like in it with me. You're like my brother. Sometimes when I'm with Chris and James, I'm like, it's like these guys have all the answers now, and they've been in it, and they've been sober, and they're doing the things. And you're kind of like my brother who's in it with me, you know?
They're shouting from the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
They're like, just stop looking. And we're like,
I don't know that I've ever experienced them as saying things like
no,
that.
they're not those guys.
Oh, good old Chris.
They get down in the trenches and help.
Yeah.
That's what this whole
That's true.
podcast is.
So, Chris, I loved your thought for the episode today. What did you want to talk about?
How do we forgive ourselves? Like, I know meeting with a lot of clients and stuff, that's one of their hardest things that they do is learning to forgive themselves. And that, for me, was a super hard thing for me, too, because other people were forgiving me, but yet I couldn't forgive myself because of what I'd done and the hearts I destroyed and the lives that I destroyed and everything. Like, it was just so hard to allow myself to be forgiven by myself.
I think my issue is I just don't know if I've ever done anything wrong.
You ever done
Nothing to forgive yourself about.
Sorry, I couldn't
Must
even
be
get
nice.
it. I couldn't even get it out because I'm so guilty. Yeah, I have a lot of things that I've needed forgiveness from myself for. I think there's these funny barriers in my mind that I'm just like, once I cross that threshold, then it's out of control and I hate myself and I could never forgive myself for the things that I did in those bad moments. And I actually don't know if I could name in this moment what has changed for me. But when I think about what those moments have been historically, I don't feel pain in the same way that I used to. So there's been some self-compassion and forgiveness. I'm just not quite sure what the recipe is. What do you guys think?
The thing that's coming to my mind right now is coming to know how God sees you. Which can be done in lots of different ways, I think. I think some of the most helpful things for me, I know not everyone is a big 12-step guy, but the 4-step inventory for the 12 steps was massive for me to go back and just realize that I didn't stand a chance. As a 8-year-old kid seeing pornography on the internet for the first time, and friggin' nobody even knew what the internet was, and parents just had no idea, bishops had no idea, therapists had no idea how to help, and like you're just able to give yourself some grace when you go back and see exactly how it all happened. And have you guys seen the movie Thunderbolts?
Mm-hmm.
No, I haven't watched it yet.
No? There's a line in the movie where Yelena, the main character, is just like weeping, just yelling, talking to her father about all the horrible things she's done in her life and how terrible she feels all the time. And she just keeps talking, and he interrupts her and says, "When I look at you, I don't see your mistakes. That's why we need each other." And having a brotherhood of men who can help me see myself without my flaws is something that helps me I've found that a lot of recovery is manifested what I'm supposed to be doing with God through brotherhood. And after a while of doing it with brothers for a while, the Spirit's like, you should probably just do this with God. Call up your brother once in a while when you're going through something hard. And God's just like, maybe you should pray once in a while. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. But brotherhood's been huge. Being able to have others express to me how they see me and writing it all out with my foresight.
And they know what you struggle with, and they're still loving on you.
Oh, yeah.
I think the hardest things for me to forgive myself for have been the things that I feel just the most out of control and shameful about. Things you're not supposed to do, things that feel risky. Relapsing at work. Using a roommate's device to act out. I mean, stuff like that I've done in the past. Boy, that like wrecks me. I think about it, and it's not as fresh anymore, and I have a lot of self-compassion. The key, actually, as Josh was talking, I was like, yeah, that feels like it's it for me, is like understanding how you got there. No wonder you got addicted to porn. No wonder you were so desperate to find something to relieve the pain. No wonder you were going to crazy lengths to act out. Like your emotional state at the time, your inability to create safety for yourself, not having people in your life you could go to and talk to about your inner world. That's made it feel over time that, like, yeah, you know what, I am forgivable. And I think at some point, I don't know, I'd have to think through all the things in my 4-step, because my 4-step was a kind of a pivotal moment for me as well, Joshua. But I'm trying to think if there is anything that I haven't like really, really forgiven myself for in this moment.
I feel like in this context, sitting with a bunch of brothers, it's easy to be more forgiving of yourself. It's after a setback or something where you forget.
Yeah, to your point, actually, what just came to my mind was one thing I haven't forgiven myself for yet is the fact that it has taken me so long to recover. I see the look in my girlfriend's eyes when I relapse, like every once a month or whatever it is, with porn. That's, man, once a month would have been a dream for me as a teenager. I've been like, bro, we're using porn once a month. You're good, bro. That's not even a big issue. It's not like twice a day, 3 times a day. Like, I mean, I was setting records. It was bad.
Did you see what just happened, though? Like the way that just looking back at yourself a few years ago and realizing, like, I don't know, just having more grace for yourself just by thinking about it for one split second, going back in time.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I think I need some more self-compassion and forgiveness surrounding my current state, though, where I'm at, because it's easy to look back.
James
just raised his
hand. Why did you raise your hand?
I'd like to share something.
You can speak now, James.
We will allow it.
Permission.
Looking back, for me, one of the things that I needed to do to forgive myself, I needed to forgive God. For a while there, I was pretty mad that for quite a few things that he let me struggle with it for so long, or suffer with it for so long alone in isolation without answers and without brotherhood. That he, what I felt like, didn't answer prayers about it. That he didn't put resources and things into my hands for the first, whatever it was, 14 years of my marriage. That I had shamed my children. And that I had perpetuated the shame and given them a legacy of shame before I found recovery and learned about shame. I was pissed about that. Of like, how could you let me damage my children and perpetuate the cycle of shame to them? How could you have not shown it to me sooner? So, part along with finding my identity, finding brotherhood, recapturing, how God really sees me as his son and that he loves me, and understanding who God is and his character and nature. But even before all of that, really, I had to forgive God for allowing me to suffer through it. Because I was angry for a long time because of the consequences of not having answers. Seeking them, wanting them, praying for them desperately, but really feeling like none came. Unashamed Unafraid didn't exist. Therapists were on the brink of starting things, and there were no therapists for most of the years I was acting out. So Brene Brown wasn't doing her thing yet. So God's like, well, they were limited resources out there, and the chances of you running into them were pretty slim. I don't know.
How do you make sense of that?
Right now? In hindsight?
Yes, in like recovered James.
How do I make sense of the fact that I suffered for 14 years without answers?
Yeah.
I make sense of it in that God makes beauty from ashes, and that God is a long-term, big picture God, and that he didn't want me to suffer. It's not like it was his will that I sat there and suffered. And that he knew that even though that I was struggling, it would be fine. And that he would take care of me, and that he, in God's economy, he would bless me 1,000-fold more than I suffered. And so that's how I make sense of it, is that he will use my experience. All these things will give you experience and be for your good. That he has, I think part of that experience makes me a better therapist today. I think it makes me a more compassionate person for men who struggle for years and years. It made me have to kind of be more compassionate for myself, that recovery then after getting resources still took a long time. Because now I'd had more than, decades under my belt of that pattern versus a few years. So it still gave me, he still gave me light and knowledge and wisdom on the other side of it.
Joshua, do you remember when we were talking on the phone like 3 months ago, and you told me you just heard this random thing that Chris said in passing on the podcast that totally blew your mind?
Uh-huh.
Do you want to talk about that? Because I feel like that's like, I have a lot surrounding that, and I think it's super relevant.
Are you talking about when James and Chris were talking about
how long it takes to recover?
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
No, it was just really casually. James was like, "So you recovered pretty quickly, right, Chris?" And you were like, "Yeah." And you're like, "What was it, like 3 years or something like that?" I can't remember. What was it? What is it like? Do you remember what it was?
Well,
I know you have a bunch of dates, but
I was assuming that it was like multiple years, and he's like, "No, dude, it was like a year and a half." I'm like, "Oh yeah,"
Yep.
Because I was trying to figure out things for a while, but I thought it took forever, like in my mind.
you have multiple dates, right?
Yeah.
And so from when you started recovery to when you stopped viewing pornography, all of them recovered. How long was that?
Almost 3 years. About
Okay.
3 years.
Okay.
So I think that's the number that I remember being talked about. And I remember thinking, because you guys just casually said it, you're like, yeah, really quick. And then Chris was like, yeah, like 3 years. And I was thinking, that seems long to me. That seems like
Yeah,
a
it
long
was actually
time.
probably about
It's
2
not-
years because
and
I
it's
started my actual recovery. I started in recovery in January of 2007. I guess it would have been almost 3 years. Yeah, because my last acting out was December of 2009 with masturbation. So that's my sobriety date. So that's like almost 2010. So that's like almost 3 years total.
Well, it was
But then
really
pornography was like a year before that.
So 2 years with pornography, 2 years and 4 months from with women.
There you go.
And then 3 years from masturbation.
Yeah.
So that was really healing for me to hear. I was coming up on like a year in recovery, and I was like, man, why haven't I beat this yet? It's been a whole year, you know? And then I heard you guys just really casually say that, like that wasn't a crazy thing to say. And then I thought about it and was like, if 3 years is fast, then like I'm okay. I can give myself some grace. I can keep on trying, and like it's okay. Why did you feel the need to bring up that?
Because that just ties in so much to the compassion I've had to have for myself for how long this process has taken. And if I would have known back when I was 14 years old that I was going to be 26, I was going to be sitting in this podcast room talking about this, and I was still going to be struggling, and that was going to be okay, and that God was still going to love me, and that I was going to be headed in the right direction, that would have been so nice. To be able to grant myself some forgiveness in that moment, to be like, hey, man, you're doing the best you can. You just keep going. I think it's important to be honest when you're not doing the best that you can. Sometimes we're not doing the best we can, but genuinely, if I would have understand that, the self-compassion and grace that I missed out on because I did not believe that about my recovery story was just immense. Like, I can't even imagine what my life would have been like if I could have looked at myself and been a little kinder in those moments. And that's the battle of recovery. I remember a specific moment when I was 14, and I knelt down with the most faith that I've ever had, and I talked to God. I was like, my life was falling apart. I was at the height of my like suicidality and depression, and I remember I asked him, and I said, God, how is this going to be okay? And this is one of the reasons why I know for a fact that God lives. I know for a fact. What I experienced in that emotion, or in that moment, was not human emotion. I had like the words divinely like carved, etched into my heart. Like the burning in the bosom. Like it was like, I mean, everything you hear in scriptures about like these really intense spiritual experiences was completely accurate of what I felt in that moment. But God said this as clearly as I have ever had revelation from heaven in my whole life. He said, Sam, everything is going to be okay. And I didn't know what that meant in that moment, but I didn't stop crying for like 2 hours. Easily the most spiritual experience that I have ever had in my entire life. But if I could have just known back then that everything was going to be okay, boy, that would have been, it just would have been such an easier path to be able to forgive myself when things went south.
Well, what do you mean if you'd have known back then? You just told me he said that to you back then.
If I would have been able to believe it. I
okay.
believed it, and I felt that in a moment.
Oh, okay. But
I quickly forgot because it wasn't like in my heart yet. And I still believed that God hated me, and I didn't understand how those two things...
I'm missing the story here because like you said you were 14 when you did it.
I know. Yeah, I didn't...
Wait a minute,
I apologize.
Yeah.
If I could... I think maybe I'll say it this way. If I could have held on to that truth for longer than 24 hours and let it change my identity, this whole idea of forgiveness and recovery would be so much easier. And boy, I think that's just what it's all about. if you recognize that God loves you and he knows you by name and he's carefully guiding your recovery process, this all gets a little bit easier.
Do you mind if I tell you one other story real quick?
Yeah.
Just about how God feels about us. So I remember attending the temple for the first time after entering into recovery. And I know not everyone's a member who listens to the podcast, but just entering a sacred place and feeling guilty. You know, everyone jokes about being struck by lightning at church.
Mm-hmm.
Similar experience. Being in this place throughout my entire life, I had felt shame and guilt being there, knowing I was unable to overcome this problem. And so this sacred place had become like a trigger. And I was entering this place again for the first time after being in recovery. And I was just sitting in the chapel and I opened up the scriptures and I just opened it up to where I was reading personally. And I got to a chapter where I started reading, and the verse specifically said, I don't know the word for word. I'm not going to quote off the top of my head. I'm just going to tell you what it says in general. But it said that when you haven't repented, when you aren't living the gospel, that the Lord takes away what he has blessed you with. The knowledge you've received is withheld from you. And I was thinking about it, and I just realized I've never lost my testimony. I've been trying my whole life to overcome this problem. And the Spirit said, that's enough. You're worthy now. You were worthy then. The Lord doesn't want us to be, He doesn't expect us to be perfect, or no one could go and do any of these things. He just wants us to be trying. And if we're trying, that's enough. Enough for him. That's all that matters.
I love you, man.
Love you, dude.
Chris and James,
So,
any last thoughts?
So for me, I mean, my sobriety dates are in 2008, but I still hadn't forgiven myself. And when I went to my first Warrior Heart boot camp, that was a time that I finally saw myself as God saw me. And I remember just praying, and I don't remember from before that, I don't remember the last time I ever prayed out loud. And I just knelt down in my little place, just like in the middle of the trees and these tall bushes that I was in the middle of, and don't know if anybody heard me or not, and don't really care, but man, I just poured my heart out to God, and he just said, I love you. Like you're mine. And man, I've never written so much in my life. Just all the vows of silence after the vows of silence. And vows of silence are something that we do after each of the sessions at boot camp, and to allow you to spend that time with God. And for me, when I was able to do that, I even remember writing that, hey, I forgive you. Like, I'm forgiving myself. Just writing it down. And just writing that, it was such a, I just sobbed. I just bawled my eyes out, because I didn't know I should ever do that. And then I finally, it was almost like God gave me permission to forgive myself. Or I gave myself permission to forgive myself. I don't know. But it was just a beautiful experience for me to be able to finally do that. And because I know Autumn she had forgiven me, and so many people that I've hurt had forgiven me, and they still loved me. But man, I was still pissed off at myself for what I'd done, and God was like, nope. I just want you to see you how I see you. And man, that just changed me. That's one of the things that really, like, I think that's a huge part of that helped me, like, live my life of recovery, is finally forgiving myself. Because I don't know if I would have had the power to withstand temptation or overcome temptation had I ever just forgiven myself, if I had not forgiven myself. Because if I still had this hatred toward myself, maybe it'd get to a point where I'm like, you know what? F it. I'm just going to do this anyway. I'm going to act out. I don't know. And I hope I never find out, because I do forgive myself and I love myself.
It's hard when you hear the Lord tell you how he feels about you to deny it.
Can't disagree with Jesus.
And when
Well, you could, but it doesn't work very well. We've all tried that at one point or another. Most of our lives, actually.
So I would challenge anybody that is out there right now where you just have a really hard time with forgiving yourself. Write yourself a letter of forgiveness. Just write it. Just see what that feels like. Read it again and just allow yourself to feel it. Maybe you don't believe it right now, but maybe you will.
I'm going to piggyback on that. Write that letter and take it to God and see what he has to say about it. Because I think in every single one of these stories, what I'm seeing is the common thread is that when you see and you know and you feel and you experience what it's like to be close to Jesus, something inside of you changes, and then it's suddenly just okay. It's okay that you messed up.
Yeah.
It's okay that you made mistakes. It's okay that you have a long ways to go, and it's just okay. Wherever you're at, it's just okay. And he forgives you.
I think that's the goal, is you got to get to that place. You have to you have to do some work to get yourself to a place where you can accept that answer from God, whether that's forgiving God or finding it through Brotherhood or finding it at boot camp. But I don't know if anyone's going to have the same experience that led them to that moment, but someone out there might be listening and hearing this challenge right now, and this will be your moment. So if you're listening,
we'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
Whatever God's putting on your heart right now, we want to hear about it. Email us, Sam, Chris, James at unashamedunafraid.com. Boy, I think that episode just speaks for itself. Thank you for listening. You can find us on social media at Unashamed Unafraid. Get access to our bonus content and become an outsider by going on unashamedunafraid.com and donating. And until next time, continue to live unashamed.
Yeah.